All right, everybody, welcome to the MDGA Getting Started Showing Your Miniature Dairy Goat. This is an exhibitor's guide. We're conducting a live webinar today. My name is Kerry O'Neal. I'm the live show chair for MDGA, and I'm really excited to bring to you guys this webinar. And it is going to be a lot of information coming at you, and there will be plenty of resources for you to reference afterwards as well. So just feel like this is just kind of sticking your big toe in the water, giving you a little bit of information, and we'll go from there. And we'll go ahead and get started here. All right. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to do a little bit about Shows 101. We're going to go through getting started. We're going to talk a little bit about planning. We're going to talk about the activities that you need to be thinking about before the show, so pre-show activities. Then we'll talk a little bit about the show day, what happens there, what you can expect. We'll go through post-show, and then again, those resources that I mentioned. So why show? We've got, gosh, I can't even count how, we've got a lot of people here. We've had record-setting years for MDGA for sanctioned shows across the country in the last few years. That it just keeps growing and more. About a year ago, we did put on a webinar putting on a dairy goat show for those local clubs and groups of goat friends that wanted to put on their own show. So if you haven't looked at that, that is available. There's a video of that on our YouTube channel. But why show? First of all, I mean, it's just really fun. So once you guys get into it, it is very fun. It is very addicting. But again, the purpose of showing your animal is to select, for that judge to select the animal that comes closest to the ideal of a sound, productive type. And again, if your goat wins, you're going to get the awards and the publicity, that recognition for your herd and for all those months of hard work that you've been putting in to improve your breed. So the benefits of showing are very, very great. So definitely a lot of interest here today. So we all know that we want to show. So showing 101, I'm not going to read all of these parts of the goat here, but one of the things that you do need to be familiar with is this terminology. So there's lots of different resources. So again, find resources to help you learn, because when you are showing your goat in the live show, you are going to hear those terms from the judges, and it's very good to be familiar with them. Some other terminology that you'll need to be familiar with is rings. So this kind of confused me initially at first when I got into showing. So the standard definition would be a show ring, which would be the area where the animals are displayed for competition. So you guys can see here on the picture that we've got the animals and they're in the ring, they're in the show ring. But when you kind of take a different look at it, the show definition, a ring is the sanctions competing under a particular judge. So if you hear the terminology, someone says, oh, it's a 2-ring show, they might just have one physical space, but the judges might be alternating there. So there would be 2 judges that are judging those different sanctions separately. So you would enter the ring twice in a 2-ring show if you've signed up for both rings. So just a little terminology there for the meaning of rings. Other definitions, we talk about divisions. So divisions are going to be like senior does, junior does, combined does, and then again, the same thing for the bucks. When we talk about a breed, that's going to be all of the MDGA recognized breeds that they can be sanctioned. You can either sanction them separately, or what some shows do is they'll put them together in an all other mini class. So we call that AOM. If we're familiar with AGDA shows, they call that AOP, all other purebred. So as a note here, Nigerian dwarfs are always considered a separate show, and they cannot compete against minis even for best in show. So a Nigerian dwarf is not an all other mini. They're always separately sanctioned with MDGA. So when you look at what is a sanction, that is a division and the breed. So a sanction would be mini Nubian senior does, or AOM senior does. So those are all separate sanctions when we talk about that terminology with MDGA. Another word you'll hear is classes. So classes, sometimes you'll just hear classes, sometimes you'll hear age classes. So this is how those sanctions are further divided into the ages. We'll go through that in a little bit more. There is also something called a champion challenge. We'll go through that, talk about that. And then you'll hear the terminology ROA, or Report of Awards. And that is the paperwork that is completed at the show to record those official wins. And the judge keeps a copy, the local show committee keeps a copy, and a copy comes back to MDGA. All right, the definitions continue. So AOM, again, is all other minis. And I, again, am emphasizing Nigerian dwarfs are not AOMs. So I want to say that again. It's always confusing. You'll hear the base date. So that is the date used for computing the age of the dairy goat in order to be put in that proper age class. So base date. Usually that's the day of the show. If it's a multi-day show, they'll usually just pick the closest date there. The championship leg is a term used to describe one of 3 official championships used as a basis for awarding a finished championship. So when you talk about a leg, that a goat has to get 3 legs, which one of them can be restricted, and they have to be 2 unrestricted, and they can have to be under at least 2 different judges. So, and you can find more information on that in the rules. BOB, or best of breed, that is when there's a champion challenge class. So the grand champion goes up against that challenger, and the winner that comes out of that would be the BOB, the best of breed. And then you also have best in show. So that is a class that's comprised of all the best of breed animals in that show. So to have a best in show or a best udder in show, you do have to have competing breeds. So if you had a mini Nubian, you sanctioned mini Nubian senior does, and you sanctioned AOM senior does, then those 2 winners would compete for best in show. All right, we'll fly through these a little bit more. Show milk out. Sometimes at some shows, there is a supervised complete milking out of all senior division does at a specific time. Some shows will have that. Most of the shows that I've seen that MDGA has been sanctioning do not have that requirement, but just so you know that terminology. Doe and milk, of course, is a doe that's being milked regularly. We've got the milker there that's never freshened, might have some milk in her, so that's a terminology. Got a dry milker, is a doe that is freshened and is no longer in milk. You'll hear exhibitor, again, that's the owner, or the name that appears on the owner on the registration certificate. And then you've got handler, so that might be the person showing the animal in the ring. So you don't have to, if you're the exhibitor, you don't have to handle your own goats. You might have a couple of goats that might be in the same age class, and you might have a family member or a friend that can help you handle that. So that would be a handler. An agent would be the person acting in place of the owner. So let's say you were not able to be there. You could assign that over and someone could show your goat for you. A few things here on show officials and volunteers. So it takes a village to put on these shows. So when you are attending a show, definitely my advice is, courteous and be friendly to all the volunteers and everyone putting on the show. And even more important, if they need help, either yourself volunteer or try to bring some friends and family that can assist. So the different positions of the show officials would be the show chairperson. So this is usually the chair of like a committee or a group of people. They're the manager, if you will. They're planning, organizing, executing, putting on the show, getting the judges there, booking the venues, all of that sort of thing. And that show chair does sign the report of awards. The other important person is the secretary. I call this one the pen. So this person records all the data on the ROA and signs the ROA. So it's very important that they have very good handwriting, because that comes back to us and we have to read that handwriting. So you want to make sure that if your goat wins, that everything is recorded properly and you can tell out the letters and numbers. The ring steward, I call that the wrangler. This person is checking in goats prior to entering the ring, recording placements, and assisting the judge as needed. So as those age classes are going to be coming into the ring, they're going to be making sure everyone's there. So be very nice to your ring stewards. Some shows might have a ribbon runner. Well, this would be the prize giver, and might assist the secretary in awarding the rosettes. So we've got a lovely little picture there of a young ribbon runner handing out some ribbons. And some shows might even have a barn coordinator or a greeter. So help people as they arrive, point to the pin areas, direct them towards the amenities. I'll say this twice throughout the presentation, but if you're wanting to learn more about shows, the best way to learn about shows and feel comfortable is to volunteer. So if you have a show that's coming up and maybe there's another show, a little bit further, maybe it's an AGDA show, not an MDGA show, go volunteer. Don't just go watch, just go, jump in and be in the thick of it. And you will learn a lot about how shows operate. So who can judge? The other important person that's going to be at the show is going to be your judge. So with MDGA, we do have licensed MDGA judges. They can be found on our website. Any AGDA or AGS judge that is certified can also judge MDGA shows. And we do have an option for you to get a one-day license to qualified individuals. So your local show committee, if I know with the Texas Mini Milkers, we've had some retired AGDA judges. We've gotten a one-day license for them, or there might be a candidate that's pursuing a judge's license with AGDA or an experienced breeder. So you can apply and get them a one-day license to judge your show. So again, that's just kind of all the terminology and kind of what you need to know, just kind of going into it. So now we're going to now you're serious, you've decided, hey, I'm going to do this. So we're going to get started. Step number one, get on the MDGA website, click on shows, click on live show, and familiarize yourself with all of the resources there that are on the website. There is a little article called What is a Dairy Goat Show? So you can read through that, read the live show rules forward and backward. I myself have edited these things and I have to look at them all the time to clarify something that pops up. Review the MDGA scorecard and fault matrix. So you'll want to familiarize yourself with that. And then when you're looking, you'll want to look and see, well, where is a show near me? So you can look at the upcoming shows section of the website. So you'll see there's two lists. On the top, it lists officially sanctioned shows. These are shows that have applied, put in their application, and have officially paid their fees, and they are official. But we added last year a save the date list. So this can help you planning. We have several that are already listed right now. So you can look on there and see what save the date shows are going to be coming up. Another thing in getting started is find a show mentor, join your local goat club. All of the people that have that show experience, they're going to be a wealth of knowledge and support for you. So find your good friend. Some of you guys might recognize those folks there. So, all right, planning. So you'll want to look and see what is the date of the show that you're going to be going to. I know it's kind of late now. Everyone's starting kidding season. But if you've got most of our MDGA shows, I think we've got some on the books for March this year, but most of the time they start hitting kind of April, May, June. That seems to be the popular time. And then we'll have some fall shows. So one of the things you can do is plan your breedings around the dates of the shows that you want to attend. So of course, senior does need to be shown in milk. And know your goat. When does your goat look best? Is it, 3 weeks after, 2 weeks, 60 days after? How does that goat's udder progress through her lactation where she would look good? So you might want to time your breeding there if, the stars align. And then, do you want does due to kid really close to the show date? We've been in the shows and does are having kids in the show pens at the show. So that's just kind of your preference. And do you want to freshen some does a little later so that they would be in ripe milk for a fall show? So you'll just need to look at that and plan that. When you're gone, who's going to take care of your farm? So you'll need to think about that. Chore help. Who's going to manage the farm while we're away at the show? Transportation. How will we transport your goats to the show? Lots of different options there. And then when you're looking at your show string, do I have enough handlers? I mentioned earlier, you might have a couple goats that are in the same age classes. Well, if you're just there, a lot of times shows will have people that can just jump in and help you, but you'll try to want to plan, do I have enough handlers for that? So when you start deciding who you're taking, get your list. Do they have their permanent identification, which would be a tattoo or a microchip? What age classes are they in? And then, again, who will handle and show our goats, and do we have enough handlers? So continuing on the planning, touching back on the goat identification, your goats, and my dogs are going to start fighting, apologies. When you're the goat identification, so each goat must have the identification on its registration certificate. Identification should be done well in advance and cannot be done at the show. So if your goats are tattooed, you're going to want to use a flashlight behind the ear tattoo to view and verify. Make sure that it is able to be read. There have been many instances where the results come back in and there's an illegible tattoo, and so that goat loses its leg because it couldn't read it. If your goats are microchip, make sure you bring your microchip reader to the show and make sure it's charged or has new batteries. And make sure it's still there. So if you implanted a goat in the tail 5 years ago, make sure you're checking that. And a good time to do that is when you're prepping and getting your goat ready for the show. So submitting your entries. So lots of shows do things very different. So the entry method is going to vary. So some shows use just a real old school, like fill it out, mail it in, maybe email it in. There's a new app called Showman. It's more like a website, but it's showman.app. So there's a lot of shows that are using that across the country. I've seen Google Forms, where it's just like, a form you can fill it out. So you want to get those in, make sure everything, your birth date, everything is correct, double check that. And goats with pending registrations are able to be shown. You'll just need to make sure you bring instead of, the registration certificate, you'll need to have that pending registration email verification and bring that with you, particularly for your juniors. So you'll want to make sure you have that. Lodging, where are you going to stay? So a lot of times local shows will have like a hotel room where you can get a discount, group rate. So ask if that's available. Some shows you can sleep in the barn if that's allowed. Another idea is, get a VRBO, share it with some goat friends. Are there cabins or cottages close by? Camping. So you'll need to reach out. Gosh, this green cot doesn't look very comfortable, so I hope you don't have to sleep on that, but preferably figure that out before, because a lot of times there are some shows where you can just come in and you won't have to stay overnight, so you'll be lucky, but a lot of times you are going to need to stay overnight. All right, equipment. So that's a common question that we get, like, what do I need to show my goat? So you can show your goat, just the old dog collars, like that's fine for, a little bit of training, but really when you enter the ring, you'll want to try to have a little bit nicer collar. So I've put up some different examples here. You can, of course, make your own. One of the tips is you don't want to draw attention. So you can see this brown goat has like a dark chain there where it's going across her neck. So you'll want to try to have a light collar on a light goat and a dark collar on a dark goat, but sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but many, many different options there. So on the juniors, a lot of people use these, I think they're weaver collars, the one on the left there with the leather straps. You can either adjust those or you can put these snap hooks on there, and then it does real nice. So just a little suggestion there on goat collars. All right. Other question we get asked a lot is, what do I have to wear? So definitely the show attire requirement varies from show to show. Traditionally, dairy goat exhibitors wear white clothing to symbolize cleanliness and professionalism, as white represents purity and sterility, which is associated with the milk production process. So a lot of times you will see that shows will, people will be wearing white pants, white shirts, blouses. That's the standard for dairy goat dress. But some exhibitors will do white pants and maybe darker colored bottoms or dark jeans. So it's just up to you and your show requirements. All right, so training. I think it'll be interesting when we do the next webinar to get feedback from folks, but training, everyone, you think your goat is not gonna walk good. Like, I know my goats, like, they are little divas. Like, they do not do great when I try to train them around the barn. And actually there's a video coming up of some my neighbors helping me train my goats. But for whatever reason, sometimes when you get in the show ring, they're just like, oh, this goat in front of me is walking. I'll just do the same thing. I'll walk like this goat. But what, you do need to spend a little training, not just throw them in the trailer and, slap a collar on them and haul them into the ring. So you'll want to try to start as early as possible, ideally when they're young. But if you've got older goats, definitely you can still work with them. Obviously bonding with your goat, spending time with your goat, talking to it, touching it, that's going to help it all be used to that environment. Training them to be led, responding to light pulls on the collar. So you'll want to just make sure that they're used to feeling that underneath their neck, getting touched all over. And here's just a short video of one of the farms down in South Texas. Nicole, this is her daughter, and she is just a quick video here. Feel the bass drum booming in the place, and feel the trap beat pounding like a hot beat. Yeah, so not too bad. Good little music there. And then that goat was, a few times back and forth, and that goat was doing great. So you want train your goat to walk real slowly. You don't want them to move too fast. So you want them to look very graceful in the ring. So you can start an exercise program, 2 to 3 months before the show, and practice at home, practice with your goat to, make sure it has that, is recognizing that behavior, increasing its confidence. And the other thing is, make sure you try to keep your goat's head up. So here is just, this is John and Brianna, and they are just handling these goats and getting them used to being touched. So just up and down the legs. Yeah, so pretty funny. Okay, so a little bit about training. Other question we get, bathing. Do I have to bathe my goats? No, you don't have to bathe your goats, but gosh, it sure does help them look their best. And clipping a damp goat is fantastic. Just remember to oil your blades well after to avoid the rust. So we'll talk about clipping here in a second, but this is just a video of me. This little gadget, the Hot Wave, is a lifesaver. It warms the water. I just put them up on my portable stand, bathe them down, throw some shampoo on them, and actually they do great. Clipping. So clipping is very important. You'll want to clip appropriately for the weather. So we'll show a little bit of that here in a minute, but you can show your goats really fuzzy, but I say the queen or king that emerges from underneath that woolly mammoth when you do a full body clip will astonish you. So definitely, if you can't do the full clip, we'll show you how to just tidy them up a little bit. But definitely that full clip is going to really make your goat look sharp in the ring. So here's just a few examples of some different clippers that I would recommend. So I use that same portable stand. I've got my big clippers here, and I'm going to town on this little doe. So pretty cool color change there, and you can already see, man, you can see that definition and see her conformation a lot better than how woolly she was. And this goat right here is about to get shaved as well, so that's pretty easy. So clipping in warm weather, you do want to do that full body clip. And so you always want to clip black goats earlier than others to allow for the hair to grow out. So if you mess up on a black goat, you can see the lines and it'll really show. So do those a lot earlier than some of your other goats. But here's kind of a guide to clipping, and that's more for a warm weather show. And if you've got that cool weather show, you're really just going to do kind of a tidy up, if you will. I'm not going to go through all of these and tell you exactly what to do, but I think each little section here is self-explanatory. Just kind of tidying up those longer hairs, cleaning up the feet, shaving that beard, and cleaning up the tail, making them look real sharp. So, all right, hoof care. So definitely you want your goat's hooves to look very nice for the show. You don't want overgrown hooves going into the ring. The judges will definitely notice. The feet are very important, and you want to make sure your goats are standing. I mean, it all starts at the feet, right? If the hoofs are not doing well or crooked, or you nip them and it's painful, that's going to cause them to not look good in the ring. So we want to, best practice is to trim about 6 weeks before your show, and then again about 2 weeks before the show. If you must trim very close to the show day, be very careful to not nip or cause that trauma, which can cause them to limp. A lot of times transporting them, getting them there, they're in the pen, the hooves will get a little dirty there, and you can always use a nail scrub brush to clean up those hooves right before the show. Get them all shined up, looking good. So these are just a few of the items that I use and would recommend. All right. Have a packing list. Have a packing list. You want to always, there's always something, you're halfway to the show and you're like, oh, forgot it. So definitely you'll want to have a packing list. Those things to consider and how much you're going to pack is your travel distance to the show, how many overnights, where are the humans staying, are you showing out of a trailer, are you putting goats in pens at the venue, and then customize, based on all those considerations, customize your packing list for your farm and your goats. So here are just a few of the different items that you'll want to make sure that you get all packed up. So of course we have to feed and water our goats. So you're going to need to have appropriate methods to get them what they need. So you'll need to have either hay racks or hay bags, different feeders, grain feeders. You'll need water bucket to give them water. And then of course you'll need all the feed, hay, and grain to feed them. I don't think I mentioned it here in water, but I always carry my own water. And I think I mentioned it here in a little bit, but there are some additives that you can add to water. If you do have to use water at the venue, that'll make it where, goats are picky and they like, oh, it tastes different. They won't be drinking enough water. And particularly for your senior does, they're going to need to be drinking enough water, right? So they can be making milk to fill up that udder for the show. In your tack box, you might have some clippers, extra blades, brushes, hoof trimmers, shampoos, baby wipes, sprays, collars, your ringside change. Don't forget your microchip reader, your show binder. We're going to talk about that in a second. And you might need some coats. So if it's a northern or an early or late show, you might need something to keep your goats protected. The vet pack, what I mean when I say vet pack is just an assortment of medicine to be ready just in case. So something to treat scours, bloat, sores, runny nose, maybe even a hoof bath to disinfect their hoofs as well. And of course, if you're taking goats that are in milk, you are going to need to milk them. So milk stand, milk machine, milk bucket, teat spray, bottles, nipples, that sort of thing. So I know a lot of times I take my kids, I take the does and I take their babies. And so usually I'm not having to really milk them out all the way because I just put the kids back on them. But sometimes in the morning, you might need to take a little bit of that milk off. So just whatever your individual needs are, make sure you're packing for that. Okay, other general tack items, zip ties, bungee cords, wire cutters, scissors, small towels, paper towels, extension cords, fans, hose, nozzle, water filter. You might need some extra pins to put your smaller goats in. You can see here, this setup here, these bars were pretty close together, but sometimes the vertical bars can be really far apart and little kids can just get right through. So you'll have to have a way to keep them in. The human comfort category, right, you're going to need some chairs, maybe a table, cooler, fans. The little folding wagons are great for carrying all your stuff from your trailer. Different tools you might need: shovel, rake, wheelbarrow, and then your farm promotion. So if you've got any banners or signs, display items, business cards, that sort of thing, you can take that. So here's a setup. I think this is at the Rosenberg. This is just what goes to the show. So you can see the hay feeders, the grain feeders. These folks don't care about. They got the hay, they got their water, and actually that's my peak chair over there. That's my tack bin with my fan, everything. So I was just waiting on everyone else to get there. All right. So human supplies again, your show clothes, whatever you've decided to wear, maybe bring an extra case, extra set in case one gets dirty. End of the day clothes, can't stress that enough. At the end of the day, you're going to be sweaty, exhausted, and you want a clean set of clothes to change into. Your show shoes will be good closed-toed shoes. Of course, personal items, any first aid, phone chargers, notebook and pens, and then again, just other supplies, depending on what your needs are. All right, the show binder. So this is very, very important because you can't, you got to have it, right? So you need to make a show binder for your farm. So this is going to be a binder with the registration documents for each goat that you plan to show and health papers if needed. So at show check-in, you're going to need to verify the birth dates with the local show committee for your entries. And to do that, you're going to need to look at that goat's registration form, registration certificate, or its pending email, if it's like a junior or just been registered, and present that to the secretary and make sure you're verifying that they got into the right age class. If you win, you'll need that show binder close by, because the judge will need to verify the goat's identity by checking the tattoos and microchips and comparing that back to that certificate of registration. And then the show secretary uses that information to complete the ROA. So some best practices here are to just carry the registration certificates for the goats that you're planning to have at the show. Kind of makes it easier. You're not flipping through a bunch of paperwork. And then try to make sure that each certificate is only in one sleeve protector. So the sleeve protector is great. I see a lot of folks have 2 goats in each sleeve protector. And so what happens is at the secretary's desk, that it gets confusing, right? Someone might flip it over, so then they start recording the wrong goat. So always you want to have your registration certificate in one sleeve protector. Don't double them up. Another best practice would be to arrange it by age, and then have your farm name, your name somewhere on it. This is just mine here. It's got my logo and stuff. And so have it to where if someone finds it, I can't tell you guys how many, like we had, I think 2 people left them at our show last year. And had to get them to the, to the right owners. And don't forget it at home. And again, don't forget it at the show when you leave. So make sure you protect that show binder. That's the most important thing. All right, travel tips. A lot of times people get themselves very stressed out, but their goats don't like change. So travel is stressful for goats. Probios, a good probiotic gel, is really good. And then water, I mentioned this earlier. Always travel with water. When you're traveling with your goats, you never know what's going to happen. You could have a blowout, anything. So travel with water all the time, not just with your goats. I'm a firm believer in that. But some goats are picky. And again, that blue light, it's like an electrolyte. You can add that to the water and make it taste good. Another thing I've seen is definitely if you're in a larger trailer, use crates or panels to section off that trailer. Don't throw 2 goats in the back of a horse trailer. They're going to get tossed around. So try to, and that's going to be even more stressful on them. So if you can, section them off or try to use crates. All right, so we're almost approaching. We're going to go through a few FAQs right here, and then we're going to take a pause for some different questions from you guys. This will be our first question break. So some FAQs that I had come in when I was working on getting prepared. Do I have to wear white? So we kind of already went over this, but it really depends on the show. Most shows encourage white tops and at least white or dark bottoms. So do I have to bring my original registration certificates? If I could ask right now, I hope everyone would scream, yes, you have to. So we just went over that in the show binder section. I just bought my goat. Can I still show it? So goats that are newly purchased can be shown as long as you have a signed acting agent statement from their previous owner if the transfer won't be completed before the show day. I do have to say, and I hopefully won't speak out of turn, but if you have a show that's coming up and you are concerned or you need some help, just call into MDGA, talk to the registrars, see, just make sure that they can maybe help you out. So not guaranteeing that they can, but sometimes they can make some things happen for you. Can I show goats with skirts or horns? So the answer to this is you cannot show goats with horns or skirts exceeding 2 inches. So 2 inches or less, and you can show them. What do you bring for stalls pins so the smaller ones don't escape? So this is where we were showing the video earlier where some pins have those vertical bars that are really far apart. So a lot of times people will bring either wire crates, or you can utilize like a flexible fencing at the bottom, like the plastic fencing stuff, and kind of zip tie it along the bottom. You can get creative to keep those little kiddos in. All right, we kind of had this question, but again, do I need to bathe my goats? It depends. It's definitely up to you. I have shaved dirty goats before. It's really hard on the clipper blades with all the dirt. So it definitely is better to bathe them and then shave them. But what if I get to the show and then they get really dirty? A lot of times a quick wipe down might help, but you might even need to bathe them, particularly at a buck show. If your buck really urinated on his legs really bad overnight, it might be, and you've got plenty of time in the morning, it might be worth a good rinse down. So this is a show again in Houston, and they are using the hot wave on this girl in the wash rack. So she was sunburned. Her skin was real flaky, and so they were trying to get that off of her before the show. So that needed a bath. All right, so we are at our first break for questions. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can either type it into the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, and then you can come off of mute and ask a question. Looks like Kelly has her hand up, but I'm not sure why. I think it's been on. I don't see any questions coming in the chat. Oh yeah, let's see. Okay, Amber has a raised hand.
Okay, my chat box isn't working right now, but any tips for shaving the udders? Do you use a razor, or what do you use?
Yeah, I think it really depends on how much of a perfectionist you are. You can definitely just try to get as close as you can with like the really fine clipper blades. But I have seen some folks, they actually bust out the shaving cream and they'll really go at them with, like a big lady's razor and shave it to get it nice and shiny. It really just depends on your preference. So. Something came up in the chat. Let me see if I can get back to the chat here. All right, let's see. Olivia had a question on clipper suggestions. I know they're investment, but I'd love to hear input on preferences. I think this will be great for the panel meeting that we have. Maybe we can schedule that and I'll remember this question. I love Premier One. Personally, I know a lot of their Texas Milker group, they have those same clippers that I showed there. The big ones that I was using when I was clipping that little doe are very wide, and so they really make easy work of it. But maybe we can, maybe in the discussion on the event, maybe some more folks that are across the country can share their preferences. And so we can get a lot of different people's advice on that. But yeah, definitely they are an investment, and spend it, because it is definitely worth it. Let's see. Is there a good source or reference for body characteristics or picking out a good goat to show? Yes, I'm going to share right at the end of this. I'm going to share a website and some resources where you guys can go, and there's a ton of information. So I'll share that at the end. Kelly said, is there a good confirmation guide? Yes, that's going to be in there. All right. There doesn't seem any, let's see, I'm going to mess your name up. Tristani, mess that up. Very pretty name. There doesn't seem to be any shows near me. What would be the process of bringing a show to my state? Great question. So if you look on the MDGA website under the live show, there's a section called Putting on a Show. And there is a webinar that we did about a year ago, and you can watch that video, and then definitely just reach out to me. I'd love to help more folks start up shows across the country. Those slides and that other webinar are a great place to start, and then reach out to me with the questions you have after that. Jennifer asked, are there any vaccinations or anything my goats need before attending a show? Great question. We really didn't get too much into biosecurity on this because it was more of an introduction, but really one of the, I mean, there's nothing, it depends, first of all, it depends on the show. There are sometimes shows that do have health requirements and health checks with like a veterinarian. So some of the state fairs, different things like that. So definitely you'll need to be aware of what show you're going to. There's not going to be any vaccinations that your goat would need. It's all vaccinating herds is such a personal decision. I think you could reach out to like a mentor on that. Biosecurity is another thing. Didn't really mention, probably mentioned on the list, like tarps. So a lot of folks you'll see when they're moving in, and if you would have looked at my pen in that video, and you can look back at it on the video, is I've got a tarp down, and then it kind of comes up a little bit. Some people have it come up all the way. I try to get my pen where there's no other goats around me, so I just try to block it off. And you'll have you'll put that tarp on the ground, put your shavings on top of that tarp, and A, it makes it easy for cleanup, but B, you're reducing the exposure if anything was in that pen before. Lots of people will use different things to spray down pens to try to kill anything that could possibly be contagious or cause problems. But that's definitely like showing like 201 instead of a 101. So I think we can make note of that and bring some of those questions up at the next, like a panel meeting, what other folks do. I yabbered on too long about that. Apologies. Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks for everyone sending those. Those are great questions. Thank y'all. We'll have we'll have some time at the end for some questions as well. So if you just didn't want to ask, you can ask then. All right. So moving right along. All right. So we've done all of our pre-work, right? We've planned, we've looked at the website, we've read the rules, we've trained our goat, we packed our trailer, we got our goats, we're heading off to the show. So tips for a successful show is bring some money for your raffles and auctions. Most shows will have some good, fun things that you can bid on, and that's always fun. Confirm your goat identification early and often. Make sure your tattoos are legible and your microchip is present. That's probably the fourth time I think that said that on the slide, but definitely you're not going to have a successful show if you win in the ring and you don't have your goat identified. Last tip is don't be shy or scared. Everyone is supportive and they have been in your shoes before. So if it's your first time going to a show, just embrace it. Everyone's going to be there. Everyone's supporting you. So just have a good time. All right. So we're there. We've arrived at the show. So make sure you have the appropriate directions and know where you're going. So know where you're supposed to unload once you arrive at the venue. So if it's not clear on the website or Facebook group, ask, make sure that it's going to be a smooth process for everyone. You're going to want to check in with the show secretary. Sometimes, again, as I mentioned earlier, you might have to present your goats to a veterinarian for a quick health inspection. A lot of times shows will have rules where, your goats can't have ORF, runny nose, open abscesses. All those obvious things will probably be in the show rules for that particular show. And so make sure you abide by their health, requirements. So find your pens. Sometimes pens will be pre-assigned, or you can select your pens. And if you do get to select your own pens, consider the distance to the ring. And then, like I said earlier, other exhibitors. This is a picture of another venue. Some of my goats. These are the bars that are very wide that the kids can get through. But what I did is I had 6 pins here, and then I bought 2 tack pins to put all my other stuff in. So I was on the end, so there were no other goats around my goats, and you can see the tarps and the shavings there. So you want to get your goats set up in their pens as soon as possible, and you want to get them fed and watered as soon as possible. They've been in the trailer, in the truck, in the car, in the crate. You want to get them back on flat ground and get them eating and ruminating and getting ready for the show. Then the fun part, you can set up any displays or banners that you have. Here, I'm not sure if y'all can see it, but I have little waterproof printouts that have the name of each of my goats and their information there. So kind of fun. So ring knowledge. So after you get everybody set up, you're going to want to go scope out everything, right? I've already found the bathroom, but you'll want to look, where's the ring? Where do we enter the ring? Where do we exit the ring? Are there any low spots in the ring? Are there any areas where I want to avoid putting my goat's front end in a hole or a low spot, right? That's going to make them not look good. And then make sure everyone knows where they're going to be entering and exiting. So this is just a look at a venue before everybody. This will be ring 2, entrance here. Got our table set up. This will be the first ring and the entrance there. So the venue is looking great. Yeah, so just check out the rings. All right, so when you are showing senior does, we touched on this a little bit more. There is a lot that you'll need to do, of course, with udder management. So you need to know your show and know your doe. So know your show. You need to figure out about what time are they thinking that your breed is going to be entering the ring. So sometimes you can have a rough estimate. Sometimes you might not know. The show might get delayed. But one of the rules is, again, you can always milk out if needed. You can never put the milk back in. So some shows do have that preset milk out time. Others do not. So if you do not have a preset milk out time, you want to udder up your goat. So most folks will say try to have about 12 hours of milk in the udder, but some goats look best maybe 12 to 14, or, so this is where it really is know your doe. So you want to either from the last milking or the times that you pulled your kids off of them. So some does look better with that shorter fill time, and others might need more time to fill up. Definitely do not over udder your doe. The judges do not like it when the does are over uddered. And what I mean by that is just the udder is just way too tight and they're just not even moving. You can tell they're uncomfortable. It's painful, and they might even be leaking milk. So you do not want that. So, it's the morning before the show. We're getting ready, all the excitement in the air. And what do we need to be doing then? So one of the things you'll want to do is do a quick clean, like a quick wipe down of your goat to just get it as best as possible. So clean up your goat in the morning, just like a little wet wipe. You can look at, you know how they get the alfalfa boogers from the hay. You'll want to get that cleaned off, maybe their ears, maybe clean those hooves, make sure the tail area is nice. Make sure they're eating and drinking water. This will fill their stomachs, allowing them to show their normal barrel depth for the class. So if they have some favorite hay, you might want to give them a little bit of that in the morning. Take your goats out of the pen just before their class to let them settle down before entering the ring, but not so early that you tire them out. And then you can, of course, give them a final little wipe down right before you're entering the ring. Make sure you don't have any snot or anything else on them. So I think another one of the things, we've gone over a lot today, but a lot of first-time exhibitors will get nervous about, what am I supposed to do in the ring? Like, I've never done this. There are a lot of folks that grew up with livestock and showing, and there are those of us that just got into it later in life. And so it's just a good mix of folks that are out there in the ring. But one of the things is your goal in handling your animal is to show your goat to its best advantage. So you want to make sure that you're presenting that animal to the judge in the best way that they can present their strengths. So you'll hear the term, like, are they, set them up or a stack stance? And that is where all four legs are under them in a natural but square stance to show off the strength of their feet and legs and their structural correctness. The judge is using the MDGA scorecard to choose the best goat. Now, how do we do all this? So most of the time, you're going to be moving. So a lot of times, the difference with the MDGA virtual show versus a live show is the goats are really, the judges are looking at your goats while they're on the move. And so that's where it's real important, that whole training, where your goat's comfortable is walking with its head up. So most of the time, you're going to enter into the ring with the goat on your right side. You're going to move clockwise. If you're a new exhibitor, or if you have a unruly goat, or let's say a goat that's a little hesitant, you do not want to go first. So get back in the line and let your goat kind of follow another goat and see that other goat. Your goal is to make a goat sandwich. You always want your goat to be visible to the judge. And so you always want to keep an eye where the judge is. So the handler will be a piece of bread, that goat will be the meat, and then the judge will be the other piece of bread, or peanut butter and jelly, however you want to look at it. So you're going to make that sandwich. So you always want to keep that goat where that judge can see it. So you'll also never want to walk behind your goat. So you'll always switch sides in front of your goat. So that's an easy maneuver that you can practice at home. Once you kind of really get the hang of it, it kind of feels weird at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's very, very easy. So then you'll just pretty much listen to what your judge is saying and how he wants you to move about the ring. Some goats, I keep calling the judges goats. Some of the judges will do things a little bit differently, but most of them are pretty same. So they'll line you up, and then here comes the judge to examine your goat. You're going to want to know the birth date, or your handler is going to want to know the birth date, especially in junior does. This really helps the judge to assess the immaturity of the young does in the same age class. For those senior does, you'll want to know when they freshened or when their kidding date was. So that helps the judge see how well her udder is producing based on how long she's been in milk. You'll want to know how many freshenings. So is this a third freshening 4-year-old, or, so you'll want to know how that, and then how many times has your, so that would be how many times has your doe kidded, is how many times it's freshened. So with MDGA, you'll also want to know the herd book that your goat is in. Is it in the experimental, American, or purebred? And then sometimes judges will ask about generation and percentages. So one tidbit on this is sometimes to keep, if you have like a little cheat sheet or a card, so if you've got different people handling for you, you can have like Sue's card, and it might say all about Sue. And so that way that handler can kind of look at that before they go in the ring. Okay, so the other thing is it's show day, so have fun, smile, be patient, stay hydrated, and take pictures. Lots and lots of pictures. So what to expect. So you're going to want to familiarize yourself with the show schedule. Senior does will usually go first in the morning so they can be relieved and milked out as soon as they're done. Shows will go from youngest to oldest. As far as the age classes go, you'll always start youngest to oldest. Some shows move very quickly, so make sure you have your goats ready and ringside. That can really help with the flow. Sometimes it's hard if it's just you and maybe just yourself and you're having to really run goats back and forth, but you can clip your goats sometimes ringside, just depends on the show, or might have a show chain where you can kind of chain them up and have them right there where it's not quite as far to go back to your pen. And then again, ask for help if you have more than one doe in an age class, and volunteers are sometimes available. Again, so back kind of on the showmanship stuff, we want to enter the ring and proceed clockwise. Again, don't go first if you or your goat are not confident. So you want to use those showmanship skills to switch sides depending on the movement of the judge. Some judges will sometimes stay pretty stationary, and then others are really moving around the goats, looking at them from all different angles. So you'll just need to keep an eye on them. Walk slowly. You don't want to crowd others. And I see this a lot in the youth. They'll really just be right up on each other. So if you have a youth that's showing, really just tell them to, space it out. Don't be crowding others. A lot of times a goat might need to stop, use the bathroom, just stop, wait for them to finish what they're doing, and then keep going. At the end, what the judge is going to do is they're going to line up. So this is an age class. They're going to line up the animals from first to last, and then they're going to give the reasons for their placements. So they're going to start at the head of the line with number 1, and then they'll start going down the line, listing out the reasons. This is where, as a new exhibitor, you'll really want to be listening to what the judge is saying, because they're telling you about the strengths and possibly weaknesses of your goat. In your age class, if your goat was first or second, you're going to want to keep that goat close by for what we call the champion drive. So the first and second place goats will go to the champion drive. So the champion drive, or it's sometimes called the championship lineup, this is all the goats that placed. There's a little caveat. Some judges will do it differently. They might want all first and second place goats in 2 lines in the ring. If it's a smaller show, they might just want the first place goats, and we'll kind of walk through that. So if all those first place goats are lined up from oldest down to youngest, from those goats, the judge is going to select the grand champion. And so whichever goat won, let's say it was the 3-year-old, this is a group of seniors, 3-year-old wins. The second place 3-year-old from that age class is going to step into that spot. And then now the judge will select the reserve champion from those goats. So again, most of the time for smaller shows, there's usually maybe not enough handlers, so it's just those first place. But at the bigger shows, and you'll see them, they'll line them up, both first and second place goats in 2 lines. All right, so here is a short video. This was a show that we had down in Texas last June, and this is the championship lineup from the senior does. So we'll play this for you guys so you can see it in real time.
The memory system here today. It's probably a fun one to look at when you get her up on the stand, because you see all that width here today. When you milk her, you're looking at her in the pen here today. But she's just a baby. We have to remember that. And she can have her day in the sunlight here eventually, when unfortunately she's just a baby, as TikTok would remind us here. Her 2-year-old Joe with a lot of power and shape to that memory system here today. I love the strength of the brisket and that front end assembly as well here. The beautiful shape of the mammary system when viewed from the side on this 3-year-old toe. I love the balance to the mammary system and the extension and fullness into that forwarder here today. An incredibly balanced doe in terms of all areas of the scorecard on this 4-year-old. Love the width in that rear udder structure here today. The overall depth of body and the strength and power into that brisket. And our 8-year-old doe here at the head of the line, a doe with a very strong medial suspension ligament for 8 years old and having 8 lactations here. And beautiful depth of body as well here today. For me, our champion selection really comes down to these 2 does kind of in the middle of the ring here, this 3-year-old doe and this 4-year-old doe. And when you look at them and put them on that scorecard that we see here today, in terms of body capacity appropriate for their age and development, couple that as well with the overall length and levelness across that loin well on the move, and has an advantage stay and width of rear udder when viewed from the rear as well. I'm going to come up to the 4-year-old doe. She's going to be our champion. Congratulations. So we pull her on out right up here, and then we look for our reserve champion, as she was a single entry here today. I'm going to come up to this 3-year-old doe here for reserve. Just shows us more overall area about her attachment here today, and couples that with more tightness about the foretoe. So your champion is going to be the 4-year-old. Your reserve champion will be the 3-year-old. Congratulations.
Great. So that was how that works. Now those goats won, so they're not going to leave the ring. They are going to go over to the table where the secretary is. So if your goat is selected, grand champion, reserve, best of breed, best in show, if it wins anything, you've got to stay in the ring. You cannot take that goat out of the ring. So the judge has to verify the identity, matching the tattoos and or microchip to the registration certificate. This is where you'll need your show binder handy. A lot of times everyone's, oh, I won, and they're yelling for people to get the show binder. A good tip at your shows is to maybe have a table ringside to where folks can set their binders there and have them close by. So you'll want to get that and then show that. And once all that's verified, that's when the secretary is going to record that information onto the ROA. Again, that ROA is that triplicate form. It's a quite a big form. And after all of that is done, your goat can leave the ring. You'll need to give them some time to complete the paperwork. So they'll want to match everything up. And then you have to go back as that winning goats. You'll have to go back and sign that paperwork if you won. When you're signing that, you're verifying that everything is correct. So make sure that you have the certificate there, that you are looking at it and verifying that the identification, the registration number, the spelling, everything is correct for your goat before you sign it. All right, so a couple of the others. So that was grand champion and reserve. So again, if the champion challenge class has been sanctioned, that grand champion who just won there, and that would go against any challengers. So for the champion challenge, we call those challengers. So that doe who wins this class would then carry the title best of breed. If there's no challengers are entered, then the grand champion doe is automatically the best of breed. Best in show would be basically, we'd go through that. So you've got senior does, let's just say that was mini Nubian. You've got senior does, AOM. Now those two grand champions, they're going to, or those two best of breeds, if there was a challenger, whoever wins, then they're going to come in for the best in show. And that would be the best of the breed doe of each breed. And then again, that is only if more than one breed is sanctioned. Best in show. All right, so once the senior doe show is completed, most shows will take a break for exhibitors to milk out those girls, and then the process might be repeated in the second part of the day with the junior does. So again, all shows are run different. So a lot of times, if it's just a little one-day show, it might be senior does in the morning and those junior does in the afternoon. They're going to go through that same process. And in MDGA, this is different than in AGDA. In MDGA, junior does can have a champion challenge class consisting of challengers that have earned one restricted junior leg. So we'll talk a little bit more about the juniors here in a second, but I love this cartoon if y'all don't. So I just, the one here is like, okay, so it's all the juniors in the ring. Okay, please walk them once around the ring for me. And then every single goat just starts going crazy. So it's always a good time. It's always a good time. All right, so just again, that note on juniors, to earn a finished championship title, a goat must earn 3 legs under at least 2 different judges. Only one of those legs may be restricted. The others may be unrestricted. So a junior leg is a restricted leg. So a lot of times in shows, you'll have folks that will scratch a junior that's won in subsequent rings because they technically can't win another leg. So my thought here, and I typed this up today, was your decision to show a junior again that already has a restricted leg is totally up to you. totally up to you. Don't let anybody, like if you're there and that's one of your only show it, win the whole thing, win all 3 rings, up to you. But what scratching does is if you've got other juniors, it gives your other juniors a chance to earn a leg or a competitor's goat to earn a leg. So it's up to you. I won't say one way or the other. But MDGA does offer that, again, that champion challenge class for juniors. So if you're able to attend additional shows, or maybe your junior wins a leg when it's very young, and then you don't freshen that goat, so maybe it has a second show season, or maybe there's a fall show. And if you can get that local show committee to do champion challenge, then you could bring that junior back out that's already got that leg to compete for best of breed. So it's a little side note on that. All right, so again, we've been mostly talking about does, junior does, senior does, but again, we can have buck shows. So MDGA does sanction, we can have a junior buck show, we can have a senior buck show, or we can have a combined buck show. We can also have a combined doe show. So it really is up to the local show committee to see what their numbers are going to look like and what choice they would make as far as what they're going to sanction there. So process is still the same. You're going to always start with the youngest age classes and go forward. So know the details of your show. All right, so you're done. Hopefully you won, or you had a really great time. You won some in your age class. You just had a good time. So if there's that photo backdrop here, we've got Dee and Leslie. Get in there, take a photo, memorialize your day, and please, please, please don't hold your ribbons in front of your goats. It makes them, I've done it, I'm guilty of it. And it doesn't like Dee and Leslie, they're just rocking it here. They got their ribbons over on the side. Everything's looking good. They're showing off their goats. When you hang that ribbon up in front of them, it just, I don't know. I'll get off of that. Let's see. Here we go. So post-show, you're going to move out, right? So you hauled all that stuff there. Now you got to haul it all home. So make sure you follow the venue and the show rules on when you can move out. So some local like fairs, like they have certain times when you can move in and move out. So make sure you follow that. If you need to clean up after yourself or clean your shavings, dump your shavings, make sure you're following all those rules. And again, don't forget your show binder and any awards or prizes that you won. All right, one of the key things once you get into this, you get addicted to showing, is you're going to want to figure out, hey, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? What do we need to start doing? So I call this exercise a start, stop, continue. You want to first of all, celebrate your participation and your success. Share your pictures, promote your farm. That's all. I mean, that's what it's all about, is really that camaraderie and sharing your success. But when you get back to it, really look at, what do I need to start doing? Or like, hey, man, Sally Sue she was doing that and that was great. I need to start doing what she was doing. What do I need to stop doing? What did I do well and what should I continue doing? Another thing is to update your show pack list for all the stuff you forgot to bring or write on the list. You want to make sure to bring that next time. All right, so here, post-show, you're arriving home, release the hounds, back home, yippee. But I imagine this might be what some of you guys are thinking. Ooh, Kerry, like you gave me a lot of information. I'm going to have to watch this webinar again a couple times and look at these slides, but I'm still nervous. I don't know if I can do it. That's okay. My advice is, hey, just jump right in. Everyone's nice. Goat people are the best people you'll meet. You'll have a great time. You can do it. But my rule, and I tell everyone, if you're going to come, you're never going to just come and watch a show. If you are coming to a show, please, please, please volunteer. As I mentioned earlier, it takes a village to put on these shows. And even if it's okay. If you're still not ready after all this, go to a show, volunteer, get to know people, get to know how it works, and you'll be much more comfortable. So just want to say that. We're getting close to the end here. And yeah, so we'll open it up for some questions and feedback. And we can come off of mute if you have a question, or type it in the chat. And while y'all are thinking of your questions or typing it in, here is some educational resources. So I think most of you guys might know that we have a club here in Texas called the Texas Mini Milkers, and we're actually going to be putting on 5 shows this year in Texas. So we've got a core group of some really great people and that are just really making some things happen. And so we have a website to where we've got a ton of information on texasminimilkers.org. You can go to education and resources, or you can scan this code right now on your phone and it'll take you right to it. All those confirmation, slideshows, showmanship, videos, how to shave the udder, lots of stuff on there for you guys. All right, let's see. So I had some questions. Let's see, someone typed it. Okay, let me go back up. Okay, let's see. Elizabeth, for identification purposes, is microchip alone acceptable, or would it only be in addition to a tattoo? So right now, as the MDGA rules read, so this is, again, I say go read the rules, but the microchip for showing is acceptable right now alone, is how the rules are stated right now. So you can take a look there. That was always step one, is get on there and read all those resources and read the rules, because most of the time that's going to really answer a lot of the questions. But that is a good question, and that is different from AGDA. So great question. Anybody else? Feel free to come off of mute if you guys want to ask it live, or any comments or anything. Like, heck yeah, I'm going to start showing. I'm going to find a show, or maybe try to put one on near me.
Kerry, this is Dee.
Yeah, hey Dee.
And just to add a little bit about the microchip question, I will say that most of the judges that we've used, they're fine with using the microchip reader, but they want to see some hint of a tattoo when they look at that goat.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the, I mean, we might need to relook back at the rules, but that's just one of the things. As it's written now, it's either or it can be both, but not, you don't have to have both. So it can be one or the other is how the rules state right now. But I know that there is, so stay tuned, could be changing, but. Okay, Amber has a question, and I don't actually know the answer to this. So if I have to redo a tattoo or microchip, what to do for the registry? So I think, if I'm not mistaken, you would just need to contact the registrars and actually submit that you did do a re-tattoo, or I guess maybe if the microchip like was lost and you couldn't find it, couldn't scan it anymore, and you had to do another one, then you would need to make sure you got that done plenty ahead of time to make sure you had the proper registration paperwork to present to the judge, would be my answer on that one. Let's see, a few other people have your hands raised. Yeah, just come off. Can y'all come off of mute, or are we not able to?
I'm trying. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So I joined probably like 10 minutes ago. So I guess y'all are in Texas, right? Is it the is that where most of the MDGA shows are at, or are there? I'm in Southeast Virginia, and I'm just trying to find some shows that are like somewhat close.
Yeah.
I have animals that I have to stay at home, so this is kind of amazing.
Yeah, so on the MDGA website, you can go to shows, live shows, and there'll be a section there to where you can see when there's 2 different sections. So we covered it a little bit earlier, and if you were a little bit late, you might have missed it, but it'll show officially sanctioned shows, and there's a section called Save the Date. So it'll show the shows where those show committees have submitted the save the date with the information and where they're going to be. Might not have that's usually where they might not have all the judges worked out or all the details worked out, but they're having the show and they want you to know about it. So there are definitely some shows in South Carolina. I mean, there's some shows down your way. You know, you might not be 30 minutes from your house, but there'll be some around there. All right, let's see. Amber had a question about cleaning stalls. I think that's just really, again, show dependent. Some shows will require you to clean out all the shavings and stuff before you leave. Some shows don't. So that's, know your show. Let's see. Jennifer says, thanks so much. Really wanted to get into showing. Right. All right. You're in Central Texas. Well, we got them. So we'll sign you up to be a volunteer. Yep. And Lavinia said there's a show in Floyd, Virginia. So, all right. Amber asked, is it okay to wear gloves while showing some chains are harsh on your hands? Yeah, I mean, I think as long as they're like bedazzled and stuff, no. I don't see, I mean, I think that's perfectly fine. All right, well, I'm going to flip back over to this education resource. So again, this webinar the video recording will be published on our YouTube channel. It'll be published on the website. It'll be shared on Facebook. I'll download these slides and make them into a PDF. So you can have that to kind of flip through. And then again, this resource, there's some different show packing lists, all sorts of different resources here for you as well. And then if you guys don't know how to get a hold of me, you can click anywhere on the MDGA website, but it's show@miniaturedairygoats.org is the live show email. So with that, I will go ahead and stop recording. And thank y'all for attending.